Hello, everybody. Attention, everyone. This is now episode 24 of the Rollout Show. Can you believe it? 24.
That's a lot of episodes. I would
know.
make a joke about you not leaving yet, but we made that joke last week, and I don't want to be repetitive. So take that.
We are one more episode from our Jordan year.
Why do you say it like that?
I couldn't figure out how to...
We are one more episode from
But
our
we're...
Jordan year.
but-
Wait, what do you mean from our Jordan year?
Yeah, it was last week, but we forgot to bring it up, and I felt bad about it, so I wanted to make the joke
You mean
now.
our LeBron James episode?
Yeah, the LeBron episode.
LeBron, because he's
Best
better
player
than
of all time.
better than MJ.
Absolutely.
That's not true. Please don't hate me, internet. I put MJ number one, but if I get 5 LeBrons versus 5 MJs, give me 5 LeBrons every day of the week.
Absolutely. For real.
Anyway, that's not what this show's about today. Weston, tell the people what they want.
This show is all about baseball.
No, it's not. That's not true. Can you give a more accurate representation of what we're going to talk about today?
So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is we're going to talk a little baseball.
A
We're
little
going to talk
bit.
a little
We have to take
fighting
our-
in baseball.
We have to take our weekly trip to baseball hell.
Baseball heaven.
Baseball hell. Let's be honest.
Actually, baseball heaven is St.
but
Louis.
but let's be honest though. It's baseball hell.
It's not.
But
Bradley, you're incorrect.
it's
Just accept you're wrong and let's move on. We got a show to do.
okay.
You're wrong.
Okay, I'm right. But go
Gosh,
on.
okay. We're going to talk a little brawl in baseball. A little fighting. We're going to talk a little fantasy football / regular football injury reports. Couple big guys going down,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately.
I hate seeing guys go down in the preseason, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
And then there's a little basketball topic that is really unimportant, but just a minor basketball topic we're going to talk
Only
about.
like the biggest NBA trade in a long time, but we'll get there.
I mean, it's only trading the best player in the league.
That's not accurate.
Isaiah Thomas is the best player in the league.
Why? God, I hate you. We're gonna get there though.
We're going to get there.
Please, if you want to skip baseball hell, just jump forward like 10 minutes and we'll get to more interesting topics. But for now, let's join Weston in our
if
weekly
you're-
segment of baseball hell.
So, this is going to be the baseball segment of the show, and actually I decided we're going to move that to the very end of the show, so now let's talk trade.
No, go ahead, please.
Fine.
I like to
So-
get this out of the way early.
So there's a log jam in the AL wildcard race. There's like 8 teams that could make the wild card.
A log jam?
A log jam.
What is this, the 1800s?
You know what? Maybe...
Do we still have to send logs down rivers?
Actually, yeah, that still happens quite
Does it?
frequently. Yeah.
Oh. I'd like to
Gosh.
see that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, right? And then, they're floating down river, and then you got the guy who's, like, running on the log. Isn't that cool? I always thought that'd be fun to do,
No,
but also petrifying.
it's really stupid to do, actually.
Don't take away people's joy. Thank you. Anyway, back to baseball. The best topic in the world.
So useless.
The main thing that's happened in baseball is, of course, what happened with the Tigers and the Yankees. There were a few minor trades, like Rajai Davis going over to the Red Sox, Curtis Granderson going to the Dodgers, which is going to be a really big help for them.
He used to be good, right?
I mean, he's still really good. He produces very well in the playoffs.
Wasn't Curtis Granderson on the Yankees?
He was. He was on the Tigers, then he got traded to the Yankees. Then, where else did he go? He signed with the Mets, and then now he's with LA.
Thank
So-
you for that.
Yeah, no problem. He's a very steady presence in a lineup and caused the Dodgers to send Jock Peterson down to AAA because he's been slumping hard. And speaking of the Dodgers, I almost forgot about this topic, and it's one Bradley actually knows a little bit about. Rich Hill.
Poor Rich Hill, man. Poor Rich Hill. How many perfect games have there been in Major League history?
27, if I remember
So-
correctly.
Rich Hill basically pitched 9 perfect innings. It went to extras in the 10th inning. There was an error, right?
Well, no, he pitched 8 perfect innings. He pitched 9 full no-hit innings,
Okay,
and
my
on
bad.
like the first pitch of the 10th inning, he gives up a walk-off homer to lose.
That's right. Yeah, that sucks, man.
That's
That
so
sucks.
bad for Rich Hill, but I don't really feel bad for his teammates because I mean, just score a run. Like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't
Like-
feel bad for his teammates. Like, you shouldn't feel bad for the team. I feel bad for Rich Hill because he did everything he had to do to win. It's like when you see a defense in football pitch a shutout, it goes to overtime 0-0, and then you lose 3-0. Like, you feel bad for the defense. You don't feel bad for the team.
Right. And honestly, a part of the factor, in my opinion, is the Dodgers, towards the end of the season, since they have a large lead, have put a few of their stars on the DL to give them basically extra rest, where if it was, the playoffs, they'd be playing through the injury kind of thing. So they were without Cody Bellinger since they decided to put him on the DL with ankle swelling, which he basically said he was able to play through, but they chose not to. So I think that would have made a difference.
But
in that
why
game.
not? Like, why not give him some rest?
Well, because you know what? Rich Hill would have probably had a no-hitter.
Maybe.
You know?
You don't know.
Hey,
Maybe his ankle would have been so swollen that he couldn't get to a ball and give up a hit. You don't know. The audience can't see you blinking at me. Please make verbal noises. That's why we do a podcast, not a video podcast or like a stream or something.
they know my silence is my disdain with whatever you're saying.
They know the silence is silence and we gotta move on.
Anyway, we're going to talk about a topic which me and Bradley are going to do after the show, which is brawling.
Let's have a Donnybrook. There's an SAT
Ooh.
word for all of you
Ooh.
students out there. It means to fight.
Yes. Nice little Donnybrook.
You need a Donnybrook.
Shout out to Mrs. Bell.
Why would you shout out our high school teacher like that?
Why not? I mean,
Because it's useless. It's useless information for the podcast audience. They don't care about Mrs. Bell. Miss Bell. Was she married?
yes, she was.
Okay. Mrs. Bell. My bad. Sorry, Mrs.
See,
Bell.
now you're bringing useless information to the podcast. Now we're talking about Mrs. Bell.
But we were already talking about her. I didn't want to get the article of her name wrong, okay?
Well,
I
good
wanted
for
it to
you.
be right.
You know what? She appreciates sports and would probably like 2% of our show.
We should send her this show.
We should.
I bet she'd like it.
She would.
She wouldn't remember us. This was
She
several
remembers
years
me.
ago. Oh, she doesn't remember me.
Oh, she probably not.
Anyway,
That's most people, though.
let's please, for the love of God, move on.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so really what happened here, it was a day game in Detroit. Really got out of hand. There were 3 benches clearing brawls. 8 total ejections.
It's not just a single bench. Those are benches.
yes,
Did you hear that? Did you hear that, audience? Multiple benches.
cleared. People running in from the bullpen, throwing some punches. That's my favorite thing about seeing a brawl, especially live, is whenever it breaks out, you have the bullpens, which are way the heck out in the outfield at most parks, and they're all trotting in as fast as they can, running from the bullpen, and then one of the announcers, who is a former reliever for the Cardinals, I've listened to a few times, he gotten his fair share of brawls over the years. Auerbosky, the Mad Hungarian, look him up. He's like, why don't they just fight out there? Like, why don't you just fight out there? Why
Just
are you
fight
running
each
in?
other.
Yeah, why
You
don't
don't
the
need
two
to join the-
bullpens square up?
You know why? It's because a lot of times these brawls are all for show. You run out onto the field to look like you're standing up for your teammates, but then you're just like shoving guys a little bit, trying to hide in the crowd so the camera can't see you, really desperately trying to avoid the fight because you don't want to get hurt. Let's be honest, that's why. And if I
Some
was
of
in one of
those
those
are.
bullpens, I'd be jogging to the main fight. You make it look like you're at a full sprint as guys are running past you.
Well, and that's actually what happened in the second brawl. The Yankees bullpen didn't run out.
I wouldn't have.
They stayed in there.
It was the second brawl. They had more than one brawl.
They had 3 separate brawls.
Oh my god.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like,
I would've-
there's 3 separate incidents.
I would have stayed seated. Like, you got me on the first one. I already stood up for you once.
I think the funny thing is they sat out the second one, but were in on the first and third one. It's like, if you sat out the second, why are you in on the third?
Was the third one extra egregious?
Not really. That's probably the tamest of the 3.
They probably got yelled out for sitting out the third or the second one. They're like, now we gotta go.
It was a very wild game. It started when Michael Fulmer, who is in his second start back from arm issues, he's been having some nerve issues in his arm, which caused him to lose feeling in his fingers. And I've experienced this a few times if you just throw a baseball too hard, where you get this tingling sensation in your hand.
What you throw, 95?
Okay, not that fast, but I'm just saying, like,
Well, you
I
said
kinda,
if you throw it too hard, you're obviously throwing at similar speeds to these guys.
yeah, okay. Anyway,
You said it.
if you throw a ball sometimes and you've thrown a lot, you'll occasionally get this twinge in your elbow that sends this very weird feeling where you can't feel your fingers. And then it's a very like twitchy feeling in your fingertips where you don't necessarily have full control of the baseball.
Okay, Dr. Weston.
Yeah, no problem, anytime. So it's a pretty common issue. So Michael Fulmer was having those issues. He did that a couple pitches prior, but they were both to left-handed batters where it was way outside. Gary Sanchez is at 4 home runs in the series against the Tigers. He's the Yankees catcher who was playing DH yesterday. So he gets hit in the hip, but he misses in the exact same location that was way outside to the left-handed hitters. And then he immediately jerks his arm and is trying to get feeling back in his fingers, and the trainers come out and look at him. Well, Gary Sanchez got all upset and thought it was intentional. And then later on, the next inning, Miguel Cabrera's up with nobody on base, 2 outs, and Tommy Kahnle throws behind him. Kahnle immediately gets ejected by the umpires because it was very clear he was trying to throw at him, and he was trying to throw up and in at him too, which was one of the main issues with that pitch. So, Joe Girardi gets all fired up and's upset because, his pitcher can't retaliate and everything, and they just ejected him without issuing warnings and all that stuff because they deemed Fulmer's was not intentional, which really didn't look intentional, but the Yankees thought it was, so they were trying to back him up by hitting Miguel Cabrera. So after that all happens, Aroldis Chapman has to come in from the bullpen, and they give him basically as much time as he says he needs to get ready. So Chapman takes a very long time to get ready, and as Chapman finally gets ready to throw, Miguel Cabrera is walking up to the plate, and then he immediately pauses, and then Romine gets up, you see them both getting up in each other's faces because one person said something that the other didn't agree with. Then Miguel Cabrera shoves him, and then punches him, and then Romine tackles him on the ground. Nicholas Castellanos, the third baseman for the Tigers, tries to protect Miguel Cabrera and tackles him and gets on top of him. So Nicholas Castellanos is getting basically beat to a pulp by Gary Sanchez, who was the designated hitter who ran onto the field and is just punching him in the back repeatedly. He does not get ejected. Romine gets ejected. Miguel Cabrera gets ejected. Then the next inning, after all that's calmed down, Dellin Betances, who throws 100 miles an hour, hits James McCann, the Tigers' catcher, right in the helmet with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. It was clear he was trying to hit him, and he was trying to hit him up and in. It wasn't like, he just randomly lost control. So then he gets upset that he gets ejected from that when you almost, kill somebody. And the bench is clear there.
It's amazing what happens when baseball is policing itself. A conversation we've had before.
I know.
It's amazing what happens when you let grown adults act like children and these brawls break out. Who could ever see this coming? Who could see
they are entertaining?
Who could see a 98-mile-an-hour fastball to the head as a bad thing? It's just baseball policing itself.
See, there's a code of conduct in this
Don't
situation.
even.
No, there is.
The code of conduct is to throw a 100-mile-an-hour rock.
It's actually
at different
not.
Body parts?
No, it's actually not. So if you're really trying to police yourself, which is what the Tigers really had a main issue with, the Yankees were throwing up and in, which is to injure somebody.
Where is this rule written? This is the problem. It's the code. It's the guy code.
No.
It doesn't exist. These are the unwritten rules. These are rules that don't exist. So you can make them up as you go.
They have that in every sport, Bradley.
No,
yes,
they don't.
do.
They have written rules.
Yes, there's written rules, and then there's unwritten rules that you play by.
Please tell me an unwritten rule in another sport.
The whole Matthew Dellavedova situation with Al Horford, where Dellavedova takes out somebody's legs, where he thought it was egregious, Al Horford did, so then he tackled him. See, that's an unwritten rule. That is not technically in the rule book.
Which
they didn't call it a foul.
Is this the jump shot issue when you're crowding someone in the jump shot? Is that
There's
what you're
kind
saying?
of that stuff?
That is a foul, though.
No, I'm talking about, do you remember where Dellavedova was going for a ball, and Al Horford thought he was trying to play dirty because of how aggressively he went for the ball and then rolled over on Al Horford and made Al Horford fall? Dellavedova did it a few times, and so did Zaza Pachulia a few different times. That's not written in the rules of basketball and was not called a foul because it's a judgment call by the referee. But Al Horford thought it was egregious and then retaliated.
But you
So
just
that
said
is-
it's a judgment call by the referee.
Like, because anything can be a judgment call by the referee. Same thing with the umpires, because if he deems that was,
And
a dirty play, then he could have said, hey,
but
then you're out of here.
this is my problem.
That happens
We have
in every
this
sport.
Can you hold on a second? There are dirty players in other sports. I agree. Ndamukong Suh, dirty player. Matthew Dellavedova, to sometimes a dirty player, not all the time. Zaza Pachulia, super dirty player. Agreed. That's not a code. These are guys who are the outliers. Baseball, it's the entire sport doing it.
It's not the entire
It
sport
is
doing
the
it,
entire
though.
sport,
No,
though.
you don't watch it enough to see. Like, it's a certain situation. I will tell you.
Every team will throw intentionally at somebody. Correct. Yes or no?
No, that is not true. Not every team will do that. See, this is what I'm telling you.
Then it's not a code. Then those guys are just dirty.
You.
Then you can't defend this code. You need to get it out.
You have to let me talk.
Don't you yell at me, sir. You need to calm down.
You started shouting at me.
I'm sorry. Could we have a hug? Let's have a moment. Everyone
We're
calm
gonna
down.
Donnybrook right now.
No. We're going to anti-Donnybrook.
Okay.
We're going to have
All
a nice...
ELE.
What is ELE?
Everybody love everybody. It's a quote from Semi-Pro.
ELE.
ELE.
Okay. Let's go.
All right. But anyway, because there are certain teams.
Why do we get so worked up?
I don't know.
I apologize.
It's okay. Sorry.
Ooh,
Embrace debate, right?
I'm good.
Shout out to First Take.
We would have made First Take proud right there. It's such a stupid thing to get riled up. All right, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
But
Whew.
it's so most players will tell you that if there's like a certain situation where it's like, hey, you did something wrong and another team is trying to back up his teammate or whatever, and then you get like, hit by potentially a fastball or changeup, curveball in the back, not something that's like going 100 miles an hour, something like that, you get hit in the leg. It's mainly upper body versus lower body.
Look, I understand that like hitting someone in the head is dirtier than hitting someone in the back, and hitting someone at 100 is better than hitting someone at 80.
Yeah.
But that ball coming at 80 at your back can still do damage. My point with this whole thing is if you ever intentionally throw at anybody, it's wrong, in my opinion. Like, a sport shouldn't police itself. That's what the umps are paid to do. Like, if you want the sport to police itself, get rid of the umps and just let them go at it.
Well, see, that's like what part of the issue was in this game, because right after James McCann got hit, they brought in Robertson from the bullpen, and Robertson hits John Hicks in the hands. And then, nobody really got upset about that because nobody deemed it intentional because it was a pitch that just ran in. Because,
and I was thinking in my head, one way to solve this issue is if you're hit by a pitch, you go to second instead of first. The problem with that, obviously, is there are times when you accidentally hit somebody.
Exactly.
And that's going to happen. I mean, these pitchers are the best in the world at what they do, but sometimes they're going to miss.
And
I get that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why John Hicks, who's a rookie, like, his first stint in the big leagues, and Robertson, who's a pro, veteran and everything, he was glaringly, like, upset about it. He knew he wasn't trying to hit him. They both tipped their caps at each other. Everything was good. But then, later on, it's you can kind of tell whether there's intent or not a lot of the times. A lot of the players kind of expect it whenever, they get hit, and that's why they'll get so, like, riled up, especially if it's something like, if Miguel Cabrera got hit in the leg, he probably wouldn't feel as upset about it. But if it's, they're aiming at his head, then you're going to just naturally, because you're scared and it's like, fight or flight kind of situation, you're going to fight.
I don't know. I think they need to do a better job of policing this out of baseball, in my opinion. At some point, somebody is going to get seriously injured, and then they'll police it out of baseball.
People have already gotten seriously injured.
I mean, like, paralyzed, or like straight up mental problems from getting hit in the head, or like shattered elbows, and I know that's probably happened. But when it happens to a superstar, it'll get just like the whole
Buster Posey thing?
the Buster Posey rule. That's the same sort of thing Once it happens to someone like that, they'll start taking steps to fix it. And I think they need to be a little bit more proactive on this. I really like Manfred. I think he's really good. And he's really proactive on a lot of things and understands the problems with this sport. I think this is one that they need to work a little harder at fixing, in my opinion, just from an outsider.
Yeah.
And I'm not a super baseball fan, so maybe it's like hockey fights. Like you like seeing grown men get balls thrown at them. I just don't find that entertaining.
It's very hard from like a marketing perspective as well, because everybody that afternoon and everything, everybody's talking about the Tigers and Yankees brawl. You know, like, and then
and I understand that. But my problem is with a hockey fight, two guys are defending themselves. If you're the batter in that situation, you can't defend yourself. This is my whole problem with how baseball does it.
Which is why, like, I think somebody was potentially going to do a study, and it was just brought up on different radio shows, like, where there are more fights in the American League or the National League, because the thing about the National League is pitcher has to hit.
Yep. And so, I guarantee you it's the American League.
Yeah, because, I mean, the pitcher doesn't have to answer for it.
But even that, I would be perfectly happy if instead of throwing baseballs at each other to police themselves, they just got in fistfights. I'd be cooler with that. Because, sorry, played footsies with you a little bit.
I was wondering what that was.
Anyway, I would be happier with that because then obviously the batter can defend themselves. That's my whole problem, is you're throwing at a defenseless guy. But anyway, we can move on. Sorry for getting a little heated there. I apologize.
We're cool. Bradley's ever been riled up about baseball.
Handshake. All right, we're good. All ELE.
ELE.
That's the great Will Ferrell would say. ELE.
That's right. Jackie Moon. Player, owner, coach, general manager.
Team president of basketball operations and business operations.
Starting point guard of his team. I mean, he was everything. He's a true...
What a legend,
true American
man.
icon.
What a legend. A true American.
Flint Tropics.
We need a man like that back in our lives to unite this country.
Jackie Moon.
Doing it.
He created the alley-oop.
Well.
Him and Coffee Black. Shout out to Andre 3000. That was a great role for you, man. I really enjoyed that movie.
Stupid movie. All right, let's move on, please. Jesus.
I don't know. Do you think it was a really good move that, you know, the Flint Tropics traded their washing machine for, you know, Mannix, who was Woody Harrelson's character?
I'm going to go with yes. It's a good idea to trade a washing machine for any human being if you can manage. I don't like this conversation. Can we please move on?
That was funny, man. All right, so moving on to something that's not very funny at all. Julian Edelman tore his ACL.
Oh, man. So, this weekend, preseason games. Nobody likes preseason games. And I hate when guys get hurt. The Patriots are projected to have, you know, one of the best offenses they've ever had in franchise history, maybe second only to 2007, the Randy Moss year.
Absolutely.
And then you lose your top or second option, depending on how you view Brandon Cooks. It's really lucky for them that they have Brandon Cooks now because he can take over a lot of that workload. But Julian Edelman he's a heart and soul piece of that team. He's a grinder. As John Gruden would say, he's got a high motor.
Scrappy.
He's a high...
all the stereotypes.
What other
just throw them out there.
generic white stereotype receiver things can we say about him?
Plays with a lot of heart.
A lot of heart. I was about to say that. But no, Julian Edelman's a great player. A sincerely great receiver. One of the most underrated in the game, in my opinion. And now he's out for the season. And really sucks for the Patriots. Yeah, any thoughts other than the news?
It's not a whole lot you can say about it other than it's pretty rough for Edelman. I think the Patriots are probably going to be fine. I mean, they'll find some lacrosse player from Penn State or something that'll go be a wide receiver.
When you can get over the loss of Tom Brady and replacing him with Matt Castle and go 11-5, I'm not worried about Bill Belichick's Patriots.
No.
Like, they'll be fine. It makes them slightly, marginally worse. I more feel bad for Julian Edelman. I don't like seeing guys get hurt, especially in games that don't mean anything. And then another guy that just got hurt, but it doesn't seem as bad, is Spencer Ware. He was kind of in danger of losing the Chiefs starting job anyway, but excuse me. Woo. I'm good.
You all right over there?
I'm good. Anyway, Spencer Ware, starting running back of the Chiefs, looks like he strained his PCL, like a 4, 5, 6 week type injury, but he should be fine. He may lose his starting job because of this, sort of like what happened with Tevin Cole and Devontae Freeman a couple years ago, to Kareem Hunt, who's their rookie, who is looking really good. But yeah, other than that, there aren't really any deeper thoughts. Like the Chiefs are still going to be really good. The Patriots are still going to be really good. Fantasy wise, if you were banking on Spencer Ware, you're probably doing it wrong. The Julian Edelman loss hurts, but he should have been your receiver too, so you should be fine.
Right. You should be fine fantasy football wise. And plus the thing with the Chiefs is their running backs always seem to be a little banged up anyway from week to week, and they always have just a backup. Like you'll throw Sharkandrick West out there, and it's just he has 2 great games, and then
So
Spencer Ware comes back.
They just came out and said that Kareem Hunt will be the feature back with Spencer Ware gone. I'm curious what's going to happen when Spencer Ware comes back. Just from a selfish fantasy perspective, it would have been an easier decision if Spencer Ware was out for the whole season. Obviously, we're happy for him that he's not.
Heartless.
I just said we're happy for him that he's not. I'm talking fantasy. Fantasy, man. I don't like seeing guys get hurt. If it was up to me, I would have injuries turned off in this league, okay?
That's right. You know what? I applaud
It's like Madden. Turn the injuries off!
There we go.
Turn them off!
We got great humanitarian over here.
But yeah, any closing thoughts on that? Just wanted a quick update because there are 2 players that are important in the league, so
absolutely.
we wanted to bring it up.
And in our league, one of our players in our league is one of his featured receivers is Julian Edelman. So,
and someone else in the league may own Spencer Ware and Kareem Hunt, and that's why they made that comment just a minute ago. And their name may be Bradley, and they may own Spencer Ware and Kareem Hunt.
Which is why he's really concerned about what happens when Spencer Ware comes back, because he's going to have 2 running backs that get about equal numbers, and then one week to week he's going to pick the wrong one to start.
That's what you don't want in fantasy, man. Running backs by committee, it kills you. That's the Mark Ingram issue.
No, that's totally the Mark Ingram issue, and that's why I'm really worried in one of my other leagues why I have Joe Mixon.
Oh, you're done, dude. Yeah.
Well,
you think Mark Ingram's bad to own. Joe Mixon may not even be the starter this year.
I just took a flyer on him because I'm waiting for Zeke to come back. So
that means you're going to have to start him for 6 weeks.
Well, I'm either going to start him or Eddie Lacy. So I have to choose between the 2.
Speaking of running backs by committee.
Eddie Lacy. Don't know what Pete Carroll's got going on in Seattle, but I was hopeful. And, might as well pick a player you like, right?
Hey, that's why I took AJ Green over Mike Evans.
That's right.
Go with
the
guys that you're fans of. That way, when you root for them, like it's extra special. Anyway,
exactly.
That was the fantasy update this week. Thank you. That's brought to you by
no
sports.
Sponsor here.
Insert sponsor here in post credits. Okay, we're good.
We're very thankful for insert sponsor here in post credits for supporting us every week.
Why did I say post credits? I meant like post editing. Anyway,
hey, whatever.
Are we finally to the big topic that everyone wants to hear about?
We're finally to the big topic everyone wants to hear about. Julian Stone has signed his 2-year contract with the Charlotte Hornets.
Who's Julian Stone?
Oh, actually, that's a good story, though.
Please tell it.
He has been out of the league for the past couple years. He recently signed an extension to go to stay with his championship team in Italy.
Okay.
And his dad ended up getting very, very poor health. He has lung issues, heart issues, and kidney issues. And he's
not
in a
good story so far. Please continue.
Well, he's in the hospital in Charlotte, and the Hornets were offering him a 2-year contract to be their 3rd-string point guard, and he had to petition to FIBA and his Italian basketball team to let him out of his contract, and the team, accepted the request and understood why, so he was able to sign with the Hornets. Now, the thing is it going to be a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal? Because there's some talk that he may have to report back to Italy within a year.
But the important thing is now he's back in the States with his family. That is cool.
See?
Good story.
Good story.
Yeah. Good story. I made fun of you, and I shouldn't have. I apologize.
That was the only other basketball move I could even think of that happened.
That was way to have that, though. I didn't know
right
about
in the
that.
back pocket.
Where'd you even hear about that? Anyway, the trade of the decade? I mean, what's a bigger trade in the NBA happened? Anyway, Kyrie Irving goes to the Boston Celtics for Isaiah Thomas. Oh gosh.
Ante
Jake,
Zizic.
that's the one I wasn't going to remember. Ante Zizic, Jay Crowder, who is on a really good team-friendly deal. He's got like 3 years left on his deal at $7 million per year. Which
That's
is
a
so
bargain.
cheap. That's as cheap as you'll get. Deladova is making more money than that right now. And the Nets 2018 first-round pick, correct?
Yeah, the first pick, first-round pick next season. So
for the Nets, so that pick may not be incredible. The Nets are actually looking like they may put something together this year. We'll see. Anyway, just a word of caution. We're going to talk about this trade a lot and its ramifications on the league. Word came today, Saturday, August 26th, that Isaiah Thomas's physical yesterday may have not gone so well. So the trade may get walked back or modified. There may be an update to that by the time this podcast gets released. So please note that if there has been an update to that, we didn't know about it. As of right now, the trade has gone through, and we haven't heard anything about modifications or canceling of it yet.
It's very similar to potential baseball trades where they find something in the medicals and then ask for something else.
Why do you always bring it back to baseball, man?
Because that's the one sport I can think of that trades get hung up by medicals like all the time, and it's only really with Baltimore. But anyway.
Why you got to take a veiled shot at Baltimore baseball in our Kyrie conversation?
I mean, because you asked me about it.
We're cool here. ELE. I'm cool. So this trade, the obvious question that I will ask first: who won the trade?
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially if, well, it really depends on the hip, which we don't know about.
Because that statement that you just made is going to precede all other statements we're going to make. We're going to talk with the assumption that he's fine.
Yes.
Because obviously, if his hip isn't cool, you'd rather have Kyrie Irving than Jay Crowder and Zizic
and the first rounder.
Kyrie is a top 10, top 15 guy that trumps those guys without Isaiah. Okay, continue, please.
Yes. So I say the Cavs because it is a downgrade going from Kyrie Irving to Isaiah Thomas.
A rather significant one, I think we would say.
Which is, why I ran that poll 2 weeks ago, which I'm a little proud of.
Humble brag.
At the Rollout show, you can see it right
humble
there.
Brag.
Humble brag, eating a little humble pie there. Anyway, so
it's almost like we reported that before Woj did.
That's right.
Don't take credit for that though. That's bad juju.
Fine.
Woj is the best.
That's
why ESPN got rid of their whole basketball staff to sign him.
He's top 5. We'll say top 5.
Who gets more scoops than Woj now?
Adam Schefter.
It's a different sport, but yes, you're right. Adam Schefter gets every scoop in football.
He even knew. I loved how he was like, yeah, there was another move in Cleveland made today, but I mean, nobody's going to really care. But, the Browns signed defensive tackle so-and-so. Gotta love Shefty. Gotta love Shefty.
All right.
But
continue.
Anyway, back to the NBA trade. So, I think the Cavs won it because Isaiah Thomas, he's coming on a contract year, but he's a dynamic scorer. Plus, you have LeBron James, lockdown defender, backing him up. Jay Crowder, lockdown defender, backing him up. He's a very good defender.
Historically, he's been a very good defender. Last year, for some reason, his numbers were all down.
They were down. That's true. But
he's an above-average defender. I'll give you that. So
I think you can kind of make up for Isaiah Thomas not really being great at defense, which Kyrie wasn't great at defense either.
Isaiah Thomas may be the only point guard in the league worse at defense than Kyrie.
Right. And honestly, a lot of it is just physical capabilities based on Kyrie, where he's just not good at defense.
Agreed.
So, and then the other part of this equation is you also have Isaiah Thomas teaming back up with Kevin Love. They used to play together in high school, which was really cool.
Correction, AAU, but that's okay.
AAU,
please continue.
But high school age, around there.
High school age, but yeah. Have you seen that picture?
That is crazy how they're the same
we
age.
need to tweet that out.
I think I may have retweeted it, but if not, I might retweet it again.
Isaiah Thomas and Kevin Love are the same age in this picture, and Isaiah Thomas looks like he's the younger brother that always wants to hang out with the older brother, and the older brother's like, stay at home for once. I want to hang out with my friends.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
That's exactly what that looks like.
It's crazy. I mean, Kevin Love, I don't know if it has their heights, but he's got to be like 6'3", 6'4" in that picture, and Isaiah Thomas is probably like 5'2". It's crazy. Okay.
But that's going to be cool, and honestly, Kevin Love's probably going to take a little bit more of a role in the offense, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. He's been the one really sacrificing on that team, and Kevin Love is a really, really good player. That's why there's still teams out there every season trying to trade for him. And then you also have Zizic, who is the Celtics were very, very high on. He's a draft and stash prospect.
Apparently not that high, but go on.
Well, in other trade talks, they were very, very high on him.
They may have said they were very high on him.
Maybe the year of draft and stashing made them change their opinion of him. But, he's supposed to be a really good big man, center. And might as well have him. He's cheap, so why not? And also another big thing for the Cavs, besides the draft pick, is a lot of luxury tax savings here. I think it was upwards of $29 million just by making this trade, which I think is going to be pretty good for Dan Gilbert because it prepares for the future, but also, you still can be competitive this season.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to look at this trade. If we're saying which team is better today than they were before the trade, the Celtics won the trade. I think they are better today on paper than they were with Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. Personally, I think Kyrie is a significant enough upgrade to justify that. However, you have to remember that from the Cavaliers' perspective, they had already lost Kyrie mentally. Kyrie was going to leave after 2 seasons. They needed to get something for him. And usually when guys are going to leave, like, for example, look at what the Pacers got for Paul George. They got
Oladipo.
Nothing for Paul George. They got Oladipo in a contract year. Great. That's a lot of fun.
No, locked up to $20 million a year contract.
Because they signed him to an extension, right?
The Thunder did when they traded for him after Kevin Durant left. They signed him to like a 4-year deal worth $22 million a year.
About that?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go with that.
Yeah, because that's the other funny thing is the Thunder cleared cap space and got Paul George.
I was thinking he had 1 year left, but you're probably right. Sorry.
Are you good?
Anyway, now I'm completely derailed. Where was I going? God.
Mentally checked out player. Gonna leave.
Yeah. So instead, they get Isaiah Thomas, who can probably take care of 80% of Kyrie's offense, 80 to 90% of Kyrie's lost offense. He's a little bit of a dip on defense, but again, Kyrie didn't play defense either, so who cares? And if LeBron leaves, now you have a superstar in Cleveland. So this is one thing that I haven't really seen mentioned. Isaiah Thomas seems like a loyal guy. If he plays well in Cleveland, the fans respond to him. He seems like the kind of guy who would re-sign with the Cavs.
Right.
When LeBron leaves, the Cavs are going to have a very hard time getting free agents to come there. Agreed?
Agreed.
Especially given the nature of their owner and the track record of their owner being less than favorable towards the players. Yeah, he's opened the pocketbook recently, but his feuding with LeBron, I think, has soured a lot of players on Dan Gilbert.
I think it's getting better, though, because of, when they traded Kyrie, they had like a really good statement and everything. Thank you, Kyrie, for everything you've done. Stuff like that. He's getting better, but the stuff, it's still in the back of people's
obviously a guy
minds.
who's learned his lesson.
Yeah, he definitely learned his lesson.
But instead, you get, at the bare minimum, Isaiah Thomas for 1 season. If Isaiah Thomas is willing to resign, all of a sudden, when LeBron decides to leave, you won't be actual garbage. You'll have a core of Isaiah Thomas and a guy who has been so underutilized, but we still believe in, Kevin Love.
Absolutely.
That team in a weak East can still make the playoffs.
Oh, and you also have to factor in the draft pick, whoever they get in that.
Yep. Well, and that's the other thing. Do you believe in the Nets this year? Because they will still be bad, but will they be as bad as they've been in recent years?
They probably won't be as bad as they've been in recent years, but you really never know because it's really dependent on injuries and can they make that work.
And can D'Angelo Russell take the next step?
Right.
And I agree, But the Nets picks have all been so valuable because the Nets are looked at as a garbage team. As they start to come up a little bit, those picks will be less valuable. So I think it was smart for the Celtics to go ahead and flip one of them. I think overall the Celtics won the trade because in the NBA, more than any other sport, the team that wins the trade is the team that gets the best player, right?
Right.
That's how it works 99.99999% of the time in the NBA because single guys can make such a big difference. The Celtics also, I think, made the Cavs slightly worse, which is probably part of their strategy. Now I think they'll have a better shot to win, especially because now you have the whole Kyrie versus LeBron thing that's going to happen whenever they play each other in presumably the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, any other thoughts?
See, I generally agree with you, but I think the Cavs won this trade just because of everybody they brought in, the cost savings, and there's one difference to that rule, which I think applies here. Usually the team with LeBron James on it who makes a trade, that team wins the trade just because of LeBron James.
I mean, usually, but they are going to lose LeBron after next season.
Right, but for that's why I also like the trade, because if LeBron, for one, LeBron wasn't going to stay if Kyrie's there and they're feuding and then they get like a marginal return for Kyrie. That wasn't...
Which is what everyone was basically expecting. That's what I was expecting.
Oh,
when this deal came out, I was like, they got that much for Kyrie, not because Kyrie's not worth it, but a guy who doesn't like where he is going to have lower value.
Well, and that's another thing. It's like, I mean, that's why Chauncey Billups didn't take the job. One of the main reasons, because he didn't necessarily want to deal with the hassle of, having to trade Kyrie with all this stuff coming down, all the drama, LeBron leaves and everything, and then you're able to see what the Cavs pulled off, and I was really shocked by it.
They pulled off a good trade. I will say cost savings is overblown just from the perspective of NBA franchises are going up in value so quickly, and it seems to be accelerating, that yes, the owners may not want to pay an extra 20 mil in salary cap or in luxury tax, but like, get over it, because you're gonna more than make up that for the value of your franchise and the revenue that the league's bringing in right now.
Right, like if
it's not like they're losing money.
If
on
he
the
decided
Cavs.
to sell, but I mean, we don't know what else is going on in Dan Gilbert's businesses and stuff right now. So I mean, I think it is a pretty good thing as well.
What do you mean if he decided to sell? Equity's equity. Like, yeah. If he decided to sell, he'd have that money. It's not super liquid, but he has that equity. And he may be technically losing money from the Cavs. I know that's been reported that he's like negative 20 mil a year on the Cavs or something like that.
Probably right.
Fine, but that's not counting the equity in the business.
Right.
Because if he sold it right now, it would be several $1 billion, at least a couple $1 billion. So anyway, the East, does anything change? Like,
I mean, it's gonna be Boston and Cleveland. One's gonna be the number 1 seed, one's gonna be the number 2. I mean, that's...
And then the team with LeBron's gonna win.
Yeah, that's really what's gonna happen. I mean, that's...
And then the Warriors are gonna beat that team.
Most
assuming
likely,
everyone's health. Yeah. Assuming everyone in the league stays healthy, we turn injuries off.
Yeah, if we turn injuries off and we're playing this thing on paper, that's what's going to happen.
I mean, you have to do that when you're making predictions like these. Obviously, Steph Curry could go down with a blown out knee, and there's all of a sudden that's a series. Yeah. But if all the Warriors are healthy, they're going to just win again.
And you just don't know what and a lot of teams made vast improvements, like Houston. Big improvement.
I think Boston vastly improved, getting Gordon Hayward and now Kyrie.
I think they did too, and I like, Toronto's keeping it together. The Wizards are all going to be together one more year, seeing if they can make the next step. Things like that, but all in all, it's probably going to be Cleveland and Golden State, and it's either going to be a pretty hard-fought series, or it's just going to be basically what we've seen the past 3 years.
Well, it'll probably be a hard-fought series. It's just one team will clearly be better than the other, like this past year. It was a hard-fought series. The games were good. They were fun to watch, but there was a clear better team. and LeBron was not on it as much as we love LeBron.
Right. I will be interested to see what all happens as the season shakes out. It'll be interesting to see because
With LeBron and like
yeah,
where he's gonna go. The decision 2018.
decision 2018 going to Dallas.
Yeah, no, probably not. But we don't need to have that conversation yet because that's for a year from now. We'll have that conversation, or 6
Let's
months
be
from
honest,
now.
we're gonna be talking about that probably in a couple
Probably
months.
in passing, yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. There's a chance he stays. In my opinion, we'll see. I think that's why they made this trade, and if the trade goes through, which this could throw a whole wrinkle into everything.
Yeah. That's the caveat we were talking about earlier. I hope this trade goes through. This is such a monster trade. You never see in any sport, primarily the NBA, two superstars get traded for each other.
Right, because as we were talking before, it's usually just superstar, some nice role players, and draft picks.
It's usually superstar disgruntled on a team gets traded to another team for a bunch of draft picks. Carmelo, Paul George. I mean, you don't see this situation of two genuinely great players. Isaiah Thomas emerged as an all-star, and Kyrie is a top 10, top 15 guy. I think we both consider him top 10. A lot of people think he's being boosted because of LeBron, but I think he's genuinely an amazing player. You don't see guys like that get swapped. Just doesn't happen.
No. And the other funny part of this is Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie were in the same draft, so it's the number 1 overall pick traded for the last pick in the draft.
Which is amazing. It's amazing to think about Isaiah Thomas, and obviously it's because of his body type and things like that. Isaiah Thomas is going to be an all-star basically every year going forward for the next few years, just because he's so good offensively, and now he gets to play with LeBron, at least for a season. Unless your new theory is correct and LeBron's going to stay, which could happen.
Yeah.
He goes pick 60. Like, there were 59 times that a team passed on Isaiah Thomas.
And he was a really good player in college, too. So it's like, how many of these second-round picks, it's like, might as well take a shot on him. I mean, that's what Sacramento was thinking. And think about all these guys Sacramento picked in the second round taking flyers on that they just they either traded or let walk for nothing. There's Isaiah Thomas, Hassan Whiteside. There's another prominent player who I'm drawing a blank on right now, but just know there was a third guy that's really good.
Sacramento?
Yeah.
You mean Boogie Cousins?
No, like a second round flyer that they just let walk for nothing and then went to another team and they developed into a really, really good player that Sacramento just gave up on.
I heard something interesting the other day. On paper, what if someone was like, what if you put Boogie Cousins with Isaiah Thomas? Wouldn't that be such a good team? It's like, yeah, we already saw that.
We already saw
it. Wasn't
that.
Very good.
It wasn't very good.
It didn't work. And that's interesting how guys play differently with different players around them. But yeah.
And we saw that on the team where Isaiah Thomas boxed out JaVale McGee. That's just one of the greatest highlights anyone has ever seen.
Oh, JaVale McGee.
Part of the, dumpster fire of JaVale McGee bloopers. But he's got a ring now, so, it worked out for him.
He played well. It's amazing what happens when you're playing with the best team ever assembled.
That's right.
It makes you look really good.
It's amazing what happens when all you have to do is come in there and occasionally catch a pass and dunk. It's amazing what can happen.
So, here's the Celtics starting 5. Okay. This is pretty good. It's not Warriors. It may not even be Cavs good. But point Kyrie. That's a great player. At the 2, Jaylen Brown, who was a rookie last year. He played really well. At the 3, Gordon Hayward. Great player.
Great player.
At the 4, Marcus Morris. Nice player. Pretty good.
Solid.
And then at the 5, Al Horford, who at times is great, at times is not great, but genuinely a pretty good player. That's a pretty decent starting 5. I could see that team doing something 5 years ago.
Yep, that's kind of the thing.
That's the problem with the NBA right now, is that team as good of a starting five. Used to be when you had two superstars, which they do in Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, you had a good shot at winning the championship. Now they're probably the fifth best team in basketball. Maybe fourth. Because the Warriors won, Cavs 2 because of LeBron, Rockets 3, and then at 4 you could either put the Spurs or the Celtics now. I think the Celtics have done enough in the offseason to justify the spot at 4, but even at 4, like, they have no chance at the championship.
Right.
Unless injuries happen to the teams above them.
And I think the main hang-up here is Danny Ainge still thinks Al Horford is borderline superstar.
And he is good.
He's a very good player.
Like, Al Horford is a very, very good player.
And he can shoot some threes. You know, he's a good passer.
He's a good rebounder. He's a very good post defender. The problem is he has slow feet. He's old. And he's a perimeter big man that can't move. And that's like, you don't want that.
Right. He can make a three, but it's just at the same time he looks like a center trying to shoot a three at the, you know.
He's like a slow Porzingis. Like,
yeah, exactly. He's a slow Porzingis. There you go.
Which I guess is what Dirk is now too, but to be fair to Dirk, he's very old.
Yeah, he's very old. He's not like, 32. I mean, Dirk is pushing 40, and we need to be respectful of an all-time great. We apologize, Dirk.
You're right. I apologize, Dirk. One of the greatest, top 20 all time.
I'll always remember that shot that was like super high that they thought was going to like hit the scoreboard and shot clock. Do you remember that in the finals against the Heat?
No.
Oh, really? Well, I guess that's just me.
Wow. Now this got awkward.
It did. It got a little awkward. Silence. The silence is deafening. Look what you made me do.
Do we have any other thoughts on this Kyrie thing that hopefully happens?
I hope it happens, but honestly, that's about what we have on it. Saw a lot of stuff on Twitter tweeting that out, and it's the whole cloud of uncertainty now is what's really, you just don't know. That could be the craziest thing to happen is if it doesn't happen. What if Kyrie has to stay on the Cavs after they've already made all these arrangements? Everybody's parted as friends.
Everyone's burned the jerseys.
Yeah.
Also, if you do that, you're a piece of garbage. Especially if you're a Celtics fan and you burn an Isaiah Thomas jersey.
Like,
he obviously didn't want to leave. He went out and recruited Gordon Hayward. He loved Boston, and the fans embraced him, which was amazing. But you can't burn the man's jersey.
It's not like he's out there demanding a trade. And also, mad respect to Cleveland fans. They sent thank you to Kyrie. They didn't burn his jerseys, even
I'm
though
sure
he asked
some people did.
Probably, but you didn't see that out there. The thing that just surprised me was the Boston fans that were burning Isaiah Thomas's jersey. Like, why?
Don't do that. Hey, stop that.
Like, be respectful.
Hashtag stop that.
Man, played playoff games for you and played well as he was very emotional and breaking down because his sister passed away.
With a broken hip.
Hip.
He was dealing with the most traumatic emotional experience of his life up to this point, I would imagine.
Yes.
Obviously, that may not be true, but I'm assuming.
It was pretty traumatic for him.
And his hip was about to, fall off, and he played through it.
And he knew that he was the only chance the Celtics had at actually doing anything. He knew. So he toughed it out and played, and now it's
Do you
rough.
think he gets a max contract?
Assuming the hip is healthy, I still say no.
So here's my thoughts. I think if one team is going to give him a max, it might be the Cavs. Just because the Cavs, if LeBron decides to leave, will be so desperate to cling to any superstars they have left. And I think it would be smart of them to hang on to Isaiah Thomas for dear life so that you can start to rebuild around Isaiah Thomas, and then you can hope that Kevin Love can rekindle his former greatness like we still think is living dormant inside of him.
Absolutely. And then plus you would still have a year of Kevin Love and Isaiah Thomas playing together, because then that would be when Kevin Love's contract expires after that season. Then you develop the rookie, whoever that is, or maybe they even flip that pick for another player.
Or Kevin Love, because Kevin Love has 2 years left, right?
Right.
So the next season's the LeBron year, the farewell tour probably. LeBron leaves. The next season, if you can re-sign Isaiah, is the Isaiah Kevin Love show. If
Yes.
Kevin Love then shows that he's still got it, you just sign him to another max deal. Boom.
Boom, you're good.
You have something. It's not going to be great. No one in the East right now is going to be able to compete with the West, unfortunately. But it will be a solid enough core to at least compete in the East and to make the playoffs, give your fans something, right?
Right.
That team will be okay. And unless they draft another superstar, they were lucky enough to have LeBron be born near them. They were lucky enough to draft Kyrie Irving. Unless they draft another superstar, this is maybe all they get for the next few years, and they need to cling to it.
Right, and it's going to have to. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad strategy because it depends on. I mean, honestly, the Cavs have had some really good luck with draft picks, especially in the lottery. They've gotten, was it 3 first-round picks since LeBron?
It's absurd.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and one was a huge bust, which was Anthony Bennett. But
Yeah,
I mean, that was the worst draft we've seen in a long time.
And that's not their fault.
It
Like,
wasn't.
Sometimes you can blame the team for taking a player that was a bust. That wasn't one of them.
That was definitely not one of those times. I mean, there wasn't a huge difference in a lot of people's opinion between Oladipo, Anthony Bennett, and the 2 other guys who were in the line for the first pick, who I don't remember their names right now, because they didn't do anything in the league. So Anthony Bennett was deemed as the one with the most potential upside. Andy was the youngest. It just happened that, I mean, hey, they don't work out sometimes.
So if I was any team in the league, I would not sign Isaiah to a max. I think he's too limited of a player. He's too limited of a player because of his size. As great as he is, I wouldn't give him max. I'd give him a lot, but I wouldn't give him max, unless I was the Cavs and I knew this was the only way I could salvage what's left of my franchise.
Right, and honestly, if this was 2 years ago, where there was a spending spree where big men who were backup big men were getting max, then Isaiah was getting max. But
we're not there anymore.
We aren't there anymore. No.
Yep.
So the only thing I can see is a team, other than the Cavs, that's maybe super desperate to just get a star. Period. You know, somebody that they can sell shirts and sell tickets for. And Isaiah Thomas is one of those guys. That's the only team.
I could see what team.
Like,
did you say a team?
I didn't say a team.
Oh, okay. I could see New York doing it. Without Carmelo, they're going to need a face of the franchise other than Porzingis. I could see them gambling on him. I could see maybe the Clippers, maybe, because obviously they're not afraid to spend the money. But it's going to be tough for him to get the max. It's going to be difficult.
It's going to be very tough. I could see maybe a team like Indiana, some team that's a small market.
Desperate to get a star.
Right, because, they just lost their star, something like that, where they need something to build around, and they just bring in Isaiah Thomas, so.
But hopefully, and this is all assuming LeBron leaves. If LeBron stays, I would not give him the max, because you have to be able to afford LeBron. And paying LeBron is more important than anything else.
Oh, yeah, because no matter how much you pay LeBron, he's still probably going to be underpaid.
And if you have LeBron, you're probably going to get to the finals.
It's just, you can stamp your ticket to the finals if you have him on your team. And you better be thankful he likes Cleveland. So,
be thankful he was born next to Cleveland, essentially.
And wanted to come home.
Because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there were some PR implications there. Because he was seen as a villain for a long time and he wanted to get rid of that stigma. But he also does love Cleveland. And you can tell when he won the championship how thrilled he was for that city to finally get a ring.
Absolutely. And there's the whole thing of he wanted to prove he could do it in Cleveland. Like he wanted...
Sorry, we got distracted there. It just started storming outside. Why is it always storming when we do the show?
Shout out to Hurricane Harvey, I guess, because this is the
remnants.
There's
no way.
No, that's what is stirring all this up. It's like we saw it on the radar.
Isn't that all the way in Texas?
It is, but it's because it changes like the low pressure system that comes in. If you looked at the radar yesterday when I was at work, actually, I work in baseball, so we check the radar quite frequently. It was just storms that were swirling around. So it was like, you could tell it was from the remnants.
Good job, meteorologist Weston.
Thank you.
Wow, you've been a meteorologist today, a doctor today? It's been a good day for you.
I'm really underpaid. I'm like the LeBron of
It's almost like you
podcasting.
don't get paid.
We're gonna change that. I will get paid in a Starbucks or just other coffees. Anything like that. Just make sure you send all inquiries to at the Rollout Show and at rolloutsports.com.
That's therolloutsports.com. Again, that's therolloutsports.com. Please check us out. Check out the pod. Give us 5 stars on iTunes.
Putting some articles on there.
Maybe one day Weston will finish his article and it'll be on the site and you can check it out. Maybe one day.
I want to make sure it's right.
I mean, that's basically all the sports topics we have. I don't know how we're doing on time, but
we're in an hour.
We're at an hour.
Yeah, we're a little
tired
over
of talking to me. I see how it is.
I mean, I've been tired of talking to you, and plus, it doesn't look great right now, but I do kind of have to get to work, so try to get out of my spotlight. Thanks.
Well, thank you for listening to episode 24. That is Jordan plus
He's
LeBron
won.
minus 22. Who's 22? Who's number 22?
Oh, dang.
Or who's number 1? We could do that too.
Taylor Swift's 22. I don't know about you. Actually, that might be copyrighted, so I don't want to go any further.
Please don't. Please.
I don't want to go any further.
Edit that out now.
I don't know. I only said 3 words. We're good. We're clean.
I don't think we are.
We're clean.
We're
I just said
so
I don't know
done.
about you. I just sang it, so we're good.
Did you know?
Yes.
The number 1 viewed video on YouTube right now. What do you think it is?
Despacito.
You are correct.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Woo!
That song's been out like a couple months. Has over 3 billion views.
It's crazy. It's such a
passed
worldwide hit, though.
Style. Gangnam Style's now down to 3.
It's crazy, right? I think 2 of the top 3 actually have Justin Bieber in them, which is also crazy.
It's Justin Bieber in See You Again.
Oh, no.
Then 2 out of the top 3 do not have Justin Bieber.
Okay.
Sorry, he's like number 5.
He used to be at the top of the list before Gangnam Style. Boom. Boom. I'm going to stop there, also for copywriting issues.
Did you know that Gangnam Style caused YouTube to change the code they use to parse the amount of views because it went over the 32-bit integer limit when it passed like 1 billion and some.
Thanks, Psy. Thanks for changing our world, musically and technologically.
Psy has some great hits. I don't know if you've
does.
listened to him recently. He's got some bangers.
No,
he does. The song with Snoop Dogg.
It's popping, man. It's popping. You know what? He's underrated. He's kind of deemed as the one-hit wonder because that one hit was everywhere.
He's not a one-hit wonder. He's got great music.
He's deemed that way, but he does just fine.
And the whole K-pop scene, severely underrated. Just gonna throw that out there.
That's Bradley's guilty pleasure, actually.
I mean,
kind of is. I'm not wrong.
My wife likes it. My guilty pleasure is probably more anime, Don't know why we're bringing this up on a sports podcast, but
we were wrapping
my gushy inside.
We were wrapping up the show, but now it kind of became a nice coffee chat with Weston and Bradley. A nice look into our lives.
Yeah. We used to do this at the start of the show. People would yell at us. Now let's do it at the end of the show. Then people won't yell at us. Because if they're done with the sports, they can just leave.
Yeah, and plus, most of the people probably fast forwarded all the way to this point right now, and they're going to hear us talking about our personal lives instead of baseball.
As they were trying to get out of baseball hell.
Guys are going to come around. That's my goal in life, is to make people love baseball.
We'll write some articles about it. Thank you for listening to the Rollout Podcast.
Show.
Oh, yeah, we were trying to figure out someone with number 22. Hang on.
Oh, 22.
Wait. This is very important. Who wears number 22?
22.
One moment.
It's buffering. Searching.
Well, it says Isaiah Thomas, but I very clearly see him with the number 1 jersey on.
Maybe he used to wear 22, or is it the other Isaiah Thomas?
No, it was our Isaiah Thomas, not the classic Isaiah Thomas. Wait, make some white noise. Keep it going. Keep the audience entertained. You're doing a great job. Okay, that's enough. So It looks like this was episode LeBron James plus Michael Jordan.
I'm so ready.
Minus Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins wears 22.
There we go. I thought it was a blue team.
I knew we'd find
green.
somebody. All right. Thank you for listening to The Rollout Show, episode 24. Check us out on Twitter at The Rollout Show, on iTunes, The Rollout Show, on our brand new website. If you haven't checked it out yet, that's the rolloutsports.com.
It looks good. Shout out to Bradley. Looks great.
You can check that out in the show notes. The link will be there. We have our fantasy football rankings. We have all of our podcast episodes dating back to episode 20. If you want to catch them earlier, you can go to YouTube for our earlier episodes. The link is on the website page. Check out our Instagram. We're going to start posting pictures of intern Lucy and other stuff. Have I shilled enough? Anything else?
You know what's kind of ironic is how, like, Andrew Wiggins is number 22, and he was drafted by the Cavs and then traded for Kevin Love and everything. And then we're talking about Isaiah Thomas and LeBron James in the Cavs. Isn't that crazy?
Whoa!
What? All right, we'll see you later.